Hey guys, Jeffrey here with another episode of Auto Alchemy, and today I'm finally back at it with my Objective Personality Experimental Typing series. And today's subject is going to be Steve Jobs. So I wanted to start off by saying a few things, giving a few caveats, if you will. Basically, I'm not going to be including any of the video clips that I use to type Steve Jobs in this video. I will link to them in the description, but it's just too time intensive for me, and these videos are intended mostly for posterity to see how I did as homework for the class, but also to demonstrate a sort of condensed and abbreviated version of how I use the OP typing method. Look at my hair, fresh out the shower, looking like a madman. So at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see the OP type grid, and I'm going to kind of update that as I go, as I eliminate certain options and go through this whole process of triangulating Steve Jobs type. So let's start off by talking first impressions, stereotypes. People on the internet seem to think that he is either an INTP or an ENTP, and at first glance that kind of checks out. He's involved in tech stuff, nerdy stuff that does give people this NT vibe, but I also want to say that because he's talking about products with practical application and practical realities, there's also some ST stuff going on. So I'm just going to go ahead and italicize everything that falls under those two umbrellas, just so we know what stereotypes we're dealing with. It's important to keep in mind that the OP method works by acknowledging the fact that everybody does everything. Everybody can participate in these different cognitive functions as needed, but you're going to see that certain people feel at home, in a state of comfort and a savior state, with certain functions as opposed to other functions. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the areas that he actually feels most responsible. Like, where does he live? So the first thing that I noticed when watching his videos was how little he talks about himself. There was even one point in a really early interview where the interviewer was kind of prodding for some autobiographical details, and Steve Jobs just said, I don't see any reason why people would be interested in that. And if you just look at almost any clip of him, he's always talking in terms of the tribe. He doesn't really touch on himself except in passing, and he's very fixated on the reasons that the tribe has. He wants to know, how do I make a good product that is going to fit into the spectrum of tribe reasons? So it's a big, bold leap, and it goes against the INTP and ENTP initial assumptions here, but I'm going to say that he is Savior TE in some form or another. So another big thing that jumped out to me is that he is definitely not blast last. And in the OP system, blast is the animal that's concerned with expelling information, presenting this organized, structured information to the tribe. And he's obviously very comfortable talking in front of a crowd. He has no issues going on and on for 2 hours at a time, whereas people who are missing blast tend to struggle to even, improvise for more than like 20 seconds at a time. More than that, I'm getting that he's definitely blast above consume. Consume being the animal that's more concerned with taking in information in accordance to whatever personal values or reasons you have. Like I said before, he doesn't really talk about himself a lot, and as an extension of that, he's not really saying much about the kinds of books he likes to read or the kind of media that he likes to consume. Another interesting little bit of evidence that I found is that he only had one book on his iPad. And I'm not saying that he's missing consume, but I definitely think that that's pointing to blast over consume. So that leaves us with this. Now, if you ever get into the objective personality stuff, it can be really beneficial to latch on to what you're good at. So for me, I recognize that I am pretty good at tracking the animals. Even when I get the actual functions wrong, I have a good sense of what is over what. So I'm going to keep looking there and see what else I can kind of puzzle out. I want to know what he's missing, because that's going to eliminate all but a quarter of the board. So I'm definitely seeing play energy. Steve Jobs is known for his showmanship. He likes to show off his products, and I don't think he's missing consume, because it does seem that he's receptive to some sort of input. He's flexible in some way. He's always adapting. So the main thing that I'm looking at here is his reputation as a workaholic. And that is associated typically with being sleep last or sleep low anyhow. And the idea here being that if you are not making time to preserve energy and not making time to do that little bit of introspection, you're really burning yourself out. You're going all the time. So the next thing that I went looking for was gather versus organize. And this one was a little bit trickier for me, but basically what I kept coming back to were these anecdotes of how controlling he could be. I read somewhere that he was so controlling that he wanted to be in charge of exactly how a product sat in the box and where it was relative to its charger and relative to the manual, and he thought that all of those elements of presentation were important. So after that, all we have left are the TJs. But is there a way to narrow it down even further? What I said about him wanting to control exactly where the product was in its box almost sounds like sensory control, but I think that it would be a mistake to think that. If I slow down a bit, it becomes clear to me that his control is more conceptual. It's more about making everything subordinate to this overarching vision that he has for Apple. This vision that involves like the sleek, minimalistic design, the kind of thing that you can see even in the clothing choices he makes. So ultimately, it looks more like an intuitive kind of vision that is supported by the sensory versus a sensory control that is supported by intuitive concepts. So the final question is he an INTJ or an ENTJ? Now, this is the area that I'm least positive about, but ultimately I think he's most balanced between sensing and intuition. So you can really see him pivoting between hard facts on one hand and overarching vision on the other. What you don't see as being balanced is the relationship between self and tribe. He's always talking about this spectrum of tribe reasoning and what's going to best serve the community of Apple users. And then he was known for these emotional outbursts. And to me, that sounds like demon FI. So I think that ultimately the great imbalance for him is between tribe and self. So there you have it, I guess. I didn't really talk through the sexual modalities because I think that I would just be full of hot air. I'm kind of taking a shot in the dark here. I'll definitely update you guys and let you know how I did. Thanks for tuning in. I know this project is a little bit self-indulgent and is a little more niche than some of my other videos. So if you made it this far, go treat yourself to an Apple product or something. All right, thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.